Stephen, thank you. Well, I've changed location again. We've just come to just outside the walkway where those migrants, near 500 migrants, when they landed, docked, I should say, the correct nautical term, docked on the Empire Windrush. This is the walkway. This is the journey they would have made, the very steps they would have taken. It's quite awe-inspiring, actually. I'm walking the steps of the Windrush Generation. This is their first sight of UK land. So they'd walk down this walkway and this would be it to their new life. Our talking point this morning is what impact they have had on UK society and how society perhaps has changed, how they've welcomed or not those migrants and the subsequent generations. Well, with me to discuss those points we have Kimberly McIntosh from the Runnymede Trust and Maurice McLeod, Vice Chair of Race on the Agenda. Welcome to you both. Now, to you first of all, Kimberly, today at Tilbury Docks is one of celebration. Do you think that there is much to celebrate?
I think there is a lot to celebrate, definitely. This is a part of our national story, and I think having a moment to really reflect not only on how people were welcomed and the reality of that, which was with quite a lot of hostility, but equally to consider what did this generation contribute to the UK, and not just in terms of the NHS, which we hear about quite a lot and is very integral, but also to equality laws like the Race Relations Act and the activism that people within the Windrush community did to make sure that equality was achieved, not just for them, but also for the others that followed them.
What do you see today as a day purely of celebration?
It's not purely a celebration. There's certainly something to be celebrated. As Kimberly said, this was a generation of people who came to Britain, you know, in our hour of need, really, and came with their skills, and were all very smart and very quintessentially British. I thought when you see the pictures.
Well, they thought they were coming to the mother country.
The mother country, yeah. Sadly, their welcome wasn't quite what they had expected. I'd expect to see some sort of monument here to sort of. Just to mark that this was the place where Britain rejoined the rest of the world in a way in terms of migration, I think.
Yeah, it is quite ordinary. I'm not sure what plans are afoot in the future as to whether this will be some sort of a monument and this will be marked in some way. But in terms of their contribution, you mentioned the NHS. Some have said that it's not the National Health Service, it's actually the International Health Service, because there perhaps isn't a hospital in the land where you won't see a medic of colour.
Certainly. But I'd also like to emphasise that for the Windrush generation, as we've discussed, felt they were part of Britain at the time, part of the British Empire, and felt part of Britain when they arrived. So really, they were British subjects. So yes, they were Caribbean, but equally, these were still British subjects coming to contribute to the British NHS. Now we have a wonderful health service which is very international, and I think that's something that we should also celebrate.
Maurice, in terms of their treatment when they were here, when they first arrived, why do you think that there was such hostility? Because they were part of the British Empire.
Well, it's hard to say why there was such hostility, but it was certainly a surprise to them. As Kimberly said, these were relatively middle-class people from the Caribbean who had trades and skills, who were coming, as they thought, to use those skills again, because a lot of them had been involved in the Second World War as well. So they were coming to use those skills to protect the mother country and to serve it. And they thought that they would be treated like heroes, a lot of them, and were quite shocked by the racism and stuff that they encountered. I guess it's always a challenge when someone sees new, and when that new is so visibly different. But like I say, when you look at the pictures, they look like everyone's parents, not just mine. They look like everybody's parents. They're just well-dressed, eloquent people coming to make a better life for themselves.
There has been some discussion that I've certainly seen on social media today, on Twitter, and people saying that there isn't really anything to celebrate, particularly in light of the Windrush scandal of recent times, and the fact that these people weren't acknowledged and were made to feel as if they were criminals.
I think we have to use today as an anchor to then be able to jump off of and really discuss the shocking treatment of the Windrush generation, who are still, many of them, facing destitution, homelessness, only 7 people who were thought to be wrongly deported have been found out of over 60. So there's still a long way to go. There's no hardship fund for people who have lost their homes because they lost their jobs. And what we've not seen is that hardship scheme put in place whilst we wait for the compensation scheme to start making payments in the early autumn. So yes, we've seen some action on this, but we've not seen enough. So I'm hoping that today the discussions that will revolve around Windrush and this anniversary and now the Windrush Day will also make us all reflect and the government reflect on how they're treating the children and the grandchildren of the Windrush generation right now. And I think that goes wider also to the racial inequalities we're still seeing the great-grandchildren of the Windrush generation facing today in employment, in education. We see the unemployment rate double for black people than it is for white people. So we've got a lot of work to do. So I don't think today can just solely be celebration, but it can be a great opportunity to discuss how far we've come, but also how much work we still have left to do.
Certainly the scandal has brought the name Windrush into sharp focus. Many people might not have even heard of the Empire Windrush before now. Today there's going to be a reception in 10 Downing Street. What would you like to say to the Prime Minister, Maurice, if you were invited to that reception?
If I were invited to such a thing. Well, to be honest, I'd like to say, as Kimberly says, let's remember this generation of people. And I think the reaction to the Windrush scandal was so broad, and not just among black people, among everybody, because these are people that people have grown up knowing. They've been the nurses, they've been the bus drivers, and the people that make the fabric of our society. And I think when, as much as the hostile environment towards immigrants was something that a lot of people were kind of okay with, they felt, when they saw it was actual people that they could relate to, that hit them a bit. So I think we've got to use this moment to go, okay, yeah, great, we feel terrible about what you did to the Windrush generation, but let's look at what you're going to do to EU migrants. Let's look at what you're going to do to people from other parts of the Commonwealth, or just people who are in Britain, making a better lives for themselves. Syrian migrants right now, I don't think if you told them, hey, things were terrible then, but they're wonderful now, I think they'd look at you like you were crazy. There's still a lot to be done, and let's use this as an impetus to make those changes.
You end on a note of hope. Maurice and Kimberly, thank you very much for speaking to us here on Sunrise this morning. Well, I do feel quite honoured to be walking these historic steps, the steps that those migrants would have first walked when they left the Empire Windrush 70 years ago to embark on their new life in the UK, coming home, they thought, to the mother country.